Hi everyone, this is Mr Neel Raithatha, also known as the Wax Whisperer. Thank you for joining me in my latest video. This is of a patient who was referred to me by a colleague, a local audiologist, and I'll just give you a backstory. So this patient suffers from chronic earwax impaction in both ears, but their right ear, she's seen many specialists in the past, prior to also seeing my colleague, and she advised that they've never really been able to fully remove the earwax from her ears. And although cleaning the ear to this stage has made a big difference in her hearing, she still felt blocked in her right ear. Now, I believe that the patient, it's quite a regular occurrence of their wax impaction. They have to get it removed, I think, at least yearly. And my colleague who referred the patient to myself had recommended the patient to see myself in the past, just to remove this last bit, because the idea is that if I can remove this even as a one-off, that this impaction won't develop again on their eardrum. And the patient in the past, understandably so, because I do charge a lot more, was reluctant, but on this occasion they decided to book in with myself to see what we can do. And you can see the wax is a sticky, mud-like consistency, and it's really impacted on the eardrum. And the audiologist who referred done a really good job cleaning the ear up to this stage. And just put some olive oil spray. I'm using the clear olive oil ear spray. So if you wish to purchase that for your ears, you can follow the link in the description. And we are selling this olive oil spray. It's a company called Clear who've appointed and invited me to become their healthcare advisor. But please note, we're only selling and shipping to the UK currently. And what the olive oil spray has done, it's just softened this wax, and it's changed the consistency from a clay-like consistency to a more of a softer, looser type of wax, which is binded together, and it's a bit easier to remove. Now, the patient has got quite a prominent inferior recess where I am now, and also an anterior recess. So what I mean by that is, as we approach the eardrum, the ear canal narrows about 0.5 centimetre before the eardrum, and it widens out again. And when the ear canal widens out again, it creates an alcove to the right-hand side in the case of the right ear, and also a trench, a divot at the base. And now already we can see a lot more of this patient's eardrum, and they were somewhat emotional actually, because it made such a difference to their hearing. Although, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that removing the majority of the wax had significantly improved their hearing, but they felt never truly being able to hear at their optimal level. And at this stage, they felt their right ear was equivalent to their left ear. Now, on the left side, the wax is not on the eardrum, and it was fully clear when I examined the ear, but it's just this right ear. And I think the patient said about a decade that they've never really noticed their hearing being 100% in this ear. And so the fact that they could hear so much better already, it was quite overwhelming for the patient. Now, they do suffer from a bit of psoriasis, eczema of the pinna region. So the pinna is the cartilage externally. It's the shape of a half a heart, and they have got some treatment for that. So whilst the patient's here, I just want to see if I can get a bit more off for her. There is still a bit of residual wax just in the inferior and anterior recess. There's also some near the top right. Now, I do manage to get a bit more off the eardrum. You will see that in a moment. So I'm currently using a fine end suction probe. So the fine end I use it for more delicate procedures when we're approaching the eardrum. It's less noisy, it's more precise, and I can actually manipulate the shape. I've bent it a bit. I've made a kink in it so I can go around the front part of the ear canal. Now you can see this is the region where I've taken it now completely off the eardrum. There is some residual wax around the edge, right near the top, about 1 o'clock. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't get that. Now, it's not on the drum, it's on the canal wall itself, but the suction probe, this is a really small suction probe, but it's not small enough to fit into that gap. And to go into there, I'll have to touch the bony part of the eardrum. Now, you can see about 12 o'clock, a white spherical shape. That's the top part of the hammer bone. So that's actually behind the eardrum, but it's attached to the eardrum, and it protrudes outwards a bit, and we call that the short process. So we don't want to make contact with that, it would be really uncomfortable. So more or less the whole eardrum is visible now. There is still a little bit here in the trench, and I'm going to just see if I can get this out. But just because of the consistency, it's still quite hard to suction because it's quite thick and glutinous. So I'm quite happy with that. The bit in the middle, that's a staining. We leave that. It's sticky wax. So now if you do continue to watch, you will see I do actually I will go back into that little trench in a moment, and I do manage to remove that little bit of wax that was there. So do stay tuned. But at this stage, I decided, because we're close to a patient's eardrum, they suffered slightly from the caloric effect. They got slightly dizzy. So I decided just to come out, just to mop up near the entrance. You can see there's a bit of skin keratin here. And then just to give the patient a bit of a breather, and then we're going to go back in and remove that. And the concept now is that now that I've removed that, the patient will continue with their routine earwax removal appointments with my colleague who referred. And then if there is a build-up on the eardrum again, they will come back to see me. Now, the colleague, a fellow audiologist, they are going to be attending the Clearwax course. We're hoping to start training courses again in December. We stopped the training courses, I think our last training course was April this year. And there's a couple of reasons for that. At the same time, I was developing my new product, the Wax Scope, and I didn't want to continue the training selling what I'm using here, the iClear Scope, and then a week later, for example, the Wax Scope is available. I didn't want anyone to kind of say, well, I've brought this, but I prefer that. So I had decided to have a good gap in between. Now, we were hoping to start the training courses again at the end of summer, but it's just been a slight delay with the manufacturer of one of the components of the Wax Scope, and we're hoping for it to be fully ready by the end of the year now. So the reason for the Wax Scope, now if you've not seen the Wax Scope in action, you can visit my other YouTube channel. The link's in the description again. It's the Clear Wax channel. The Wax Scope is, in terms of the view, you can't beat what we're using here, the iClear Scope, the endoscopic view. With an endoscope, all the images of the ear in textbooks and online learning resources are all taken with an endoscope because of the view, the uncomparable view it can provide. But using an endoscope can be quite challenging and tricky because it's a lot of not only hand-eye coordination, but also synchrony between your left and right hand, because you're using both hands in synchrony all the time, and it can be quite challenging. And not all specialists can perform endoscopic earwax removal. So whilst we're doing the training courses, I've always wanted, and it's from years ago, I'll come back to that in a moment. You can see how we're just clearing all that off now. And there we are. So we got a nice healthy eardrum. So the patient's hearing has been transformed there. So during the training courses over the years, it's always in the background, I've been developing the new Wax Scope. And the Wax Scope comes with a speculum, which is what audiologists normally use to straighten and widen the ears so we can examine. So it's a lot more user-friendly, and we're hoping that it makes it more accessible to healthcare practitioners who want to get trained in earwax removal. Well, I hope you enjoyed that video, guys. Take care, keep well, and speak soon. Bye.